Welcome to the Beading Genius series of beading videos. I'm going to introduce to you how to create a lovely bracelet of your very own design and making using simple tools, a minimum of materials, and your own ideas. So here we go. These are the tools you'll need to start your bracelet. This is a needle nose pliers, crimp tool, wire cutters, jump ringer, or alternatively you can use 2 sets of flat nose pliers, either a piece of string fairly long, at least a foot, and a ruler, or if you have one, a flexible measuring tape. Optionally, you can use one of these designer bead trays, although I prefer not to use them for bracelets. And we will be using a pen briefly. I'm going to show you the mechanics of how to make a lovely simple bracelet like this one. This is crystal, garnet, vermeil, and gold filled. And I'm going to show you how to make the whole thing very strong and durable, yet delicate, minus the extender chain, which requires more advanced techniques that I'll show in other videos. And I will also be showing you later how to design your own, but we're going to start with the mechanics. The parts involved in this bracelet are garnets, vermeil Bali beads, which is gold over sterling silver, vermeil heishi, which is like liquid silver, only in gold, crimp beads for the ends, jump rings, and a clasp. And I have these lovely Swarovski crystal beads as well to put on the bracelet. And stringing material, I use soft flex, which is very strong. For this project I'm using the 24 karat gold plated, because it will accord well with the colors in the design. But you can also use other brands such as Soft Touch. You can use Aculon. There are certain types that are quite good now, and Beadalon, and so on. I would avoid Tiger Tail because that can break easily, kink can break, and it will lose some of the beauty of your necklace, even though it is cheap. And I will show you step by step how to use all of these tools to effectively make your very own bracelet. Our first step in creating our bracelet is to measure the length that the bracelet needs to be. You can use your string or your measuring tape, depending on the tools you have. What you want to do is measure around your wrist if it's for you, or find out the measurement of the person it's for. In my case, this wrist is just about 6 inches long. So I want to add about 1 inch for looseness and comfort, as well as for extra space when we do the crimping and so on, and in case there are any mistakes. Now, you might add an extra inch for that as well. There's no harm in that. If you don't have measuring tape, what you can do is take a string, measure the length of your wrist that way, and then just take a pen and mark on the string where that is. Put that up against the ruler, and again, I did it for comfort, so 6.5 would be a comfortable measurement for me. Let's double check that. You know the old saying, measure twice, cut once. And that does look like it would be a comfortable length. So 6.5 inches, add an inch for working space, and we'll dispense with the extra later. So now I need my ruler and my material, and I'm going to measure 7.5 inches worth for myself and cut here. Here I'm using regular wire cutters that have a flush cut on one side. They will be ruined by this material eventually, so there are special cutters made for this material that you can get, or you can invest in an inexpensive pair of Radio Shack wire cutters, which will do the job and that are very inexpensive to replace. That's what I choose to do. And here we have our material. This is where we're going to start. Now, in order to make an end so that what we string doesn't fall off, I'm going to put a crimp on the end. So I just string one of the tube crimps, and I do recommend tube crimps because they will not cut the wire as the round crimps will do. And I'm just going to scooch it up. It's folded into a nice little loop with a little bit sticking out, and it doesn't need to be very big. Small is fine. What you need to do is take the crimp pliers. Time for a nice close-up here. And you're going to take the tube crimp in the bottom part of the crimp pliers. Squeeze once so that the crimp makes a nice U shape. This isn't even that perfect, but it'll work. Take the crimp again, turn it around, and then so that your pliers are coming in to the wide part of the U, you want to grasp it with the top part and squeeze, and then just round it off by taking the pliers and squeezing all the way around the crimp, like so. That's going to give you a nice secure end to work with. Now at this point, unlike what some other crafters might tell you, I always recommend cutting off this little extra bit while being very careful not to cut the actual thread you're going to be working on. So you cut it off, being careful. The way I make sure that it doesn't fly off and hit somebody's eyes or even go anywhere I don't want to is I hold it with my finger against the part that's going to be cut off so that it doesn't go anywhere, and now I have it in my hand and I can dispose of it carefully. The reason I do this is because even if you tuck it in a bead, if you do this properly, there's going to be some give, and the little end is going to want to poke out and come out of the bead that it's tucked into and end up poking you, and that's no fun. So here I have my string ready to begin. And on this design, I already have it designed, so I know what I need to start with. On this bracelet, it begins with a garnet on the end. We'll deal with the very end vermeil pieces afterwards. So we're going to open up our garnets, and actually we'll open up all our beads. I've also reorganized my workspace so that what I have nearest me is what I'm going to use, whereas all the other things, the tools and the findings, which is what we call the clasps and the jump rings and the crimps, are within reach but not in the way. Okay, so here we begin. So I begin with the garnet, and then a vermeil piece, and then the crystal. And very simply, you don't need a needle or anything for this kind of bead stringing. It just goes straight onto the material. On this particular one, I'm using Soft Flex, which is the measurement of fine, which is 0.014 inches. A lot of people prefer using 0.019. I find this width is very versatile, and I've never had anything break on me yet, but if you're using bigger beads, it can get a little bit awkward and you sometimes need to double up. So just continue beading, and this is a great time to talk with friends, or if you need to sit in front of the television or just want to relax, let your mind meditate upon the wonders of life. And one of the things that's really amazing about beads is that they have such a marvelous history. There are some wonderful, wonderful books, if you do get into this, that talk all about beads throughout the world and history. One of the things I discovered in a book by Janet Cole is that the word bead comes from a word B-E-D-E, which actually means prayer. And that makes sense with the use of prayer beads, but it seemed to have more significance than simply rosaries and like kinds of beads used in all different cultures. So it's quite a simple, enjoyable pastime. The containers I'm using right here are watchmakers cases. They are wonderful. They really help me organize my things, but everybody has their own preferred style of organization. And there are many wonderful products out there to help you organize your bead stuff. So on your first bracelet, you may want to start with a very simple set of beads and materials, something you pick up. Or you may want to skip ahead to the design section of this video where we talk about design elements and designing a good design for your bracelet. Either way, you'll have a beautiful product to keep, give away, or sell if you so choose. I recommend practicing the first few times. Getting the hang of crimping can be difficult before you start selling your wares. But if you choose to do so, all the best to you. Only you can come up with your own personal designs that make it unique and reflective of your own character. That's why I call it the Bead Genius series, because you are a bead genius, you just need to discover it. Now I'm looking at the bracelet and I'm seeing on this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have 5 crystals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here I already have 6. And I end with, that's because I started this bracelet differently than I started this one. See, this one started with a garnet, a heishi bead, and another garnet, and this one started with the crystals. So it's alternating a little bit differently. I want to take a measurement now at this point and see where we are. We're at 5.5, so we have a couple more to go. And it's a good idea to check as you go to see how you're doing. You will need to leave a little extra room for the clasp and the findings, so you don't want to make it so long it's going to fall off your wrist. But making it, what you can do is actually measure your clasp and see how long it's going to be. If you're using a toggle clasp, they can be anywhere from ½ an inch to as much as a couple of inches depending on the design. So you want to allow for the clasp length as well. So this one is already now 6 inches. So I think I'm going to end it off with the last set of beads. And see, mine is a little bit tight because I went over the 6.5. Now I can work with this, but you're going to want to leave a little more room. Probably leave an extra 2 inches when you first cut the wire, and that'll make it fit just right. Okay, now we're ready to end off this strand. I've strung another crimp bead onto the strand, and because I've left so little room, I'm actually going to use my pliers to tuck the wire down into the end. And I'm going to have it come out because, remember, I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to tighten a little bit, and I'm going to do this by pulling the end of that wire there and actually pulling it like you would pull a string to tighten it through, say, an eyelid on a shoe. So that's a good length. And because I have it, again, shortish, I'm going to reach over, holding this with the pliers. I'm going to grasp this with the... You want to leave a little bit of play, actually, because otherwise the crystals can break. But this design has enough play in it, so I only need to leave a little bit. And again, I'm going to crimp once. See, I got a nice round one that time. And I'm going to take it, and I'm going to grab it with the top part of the crimp, and I'm going to crimp again. Squeeze, and then round. Now I'm going to take my cutters, and I'm going to pull so it's nice and exposed without cutting the other strand at all. Again, holding my finger against the end, or holding the end even. And there we go, nice clean end. And I can discard the discarded piece easily. Now we have a bracelet. We just need to have a way to put it on and take it off. Now we're going to begin the final part of our bracelet. I have in my hand a jump ring and pliers, my jump ringer, and a little bead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bead on the end, because what that does is it creates a nice finish and it actually covers the crimp. Not necessary, but nice to do. And on this end, I'm just going to twist. Let me show that again. I put the jump ring in the jump ringer with my pliers, and I simply twist. And I twist it open for a nice clean opening that's easy to close with no gaps. And I'm just going to scoop it in like that, and then close it. And here I have a nice end. For the other end, it's a little trickier because we have to put on the clasp as well. And I'm using a lobster claw for this because that will enable us to put on an extender chain if we so choose, and have it be an adjustable length. So once again, I'm going to open up the jump ring. I'm going to thread on, and you don't need to do all this in your hands like I'm doing. I'm just doing it because I'm standing up in order to get a nice close-up. And then I'm going to once again hold the jump ring through the hole, and then I still have it open, and I take the little clasp, and there's a hole in the clasp, and I just thread it through like so. Easy as pie. Close up the jump ring, and there we go. We have a completed bracelet. And let me show you how it works and how it looks. Just open up the lobster claw, and again, you can use toggles, you can use S clasps. There's a variety of clasps you can use. And there you go, completed bracelet. Lovely. And this is how it looks on my wrist. It's a good fit. You can see just a little bit of a gap at the bottom. It's just not going to fall all over the place up my arm. Thank you for watching the first part of the bracelet How to Genius video.